Imagine this. A sea of people gathered at St. Peter's Square, eyes fixed on the chimney above the Sistine Chapel. The world is holding its breath. Then it happens, the unmistakable billow of white smoke. A wave of gasps and murmurs ripples through the crowd. Could it be? Is it possible? The announcement echoes across the square. Habemus papam! We have a pope! But this time, history has been made in a way no one ever expected. For the first time ever, the leader of the Catholic Church is from the Philippines. Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle, often called the Francis of Asia, has ascended to the throne of St. Peter. Luis Antonio Tagle was born in 1957 in Manila, Philippines, into a devout Catholic family. His father worked as a bank teller, and his mother was employed at a water company. Ordinary jobs, but they instilled in him the extraordinary values of humility, kindness, and social justice. Growing up in a deeply religious household, faith wasn't just something practiced on Sundays. It was a way of life. From a young age, Tagle showed an exceptional intellect and a compassionate heart. He was the kid who always had his nose in a book, but never hesitated to lend a helping hand. His academic excellence led him to pursue theology at the Catholic University of America, where he earned a doctorate. After years of study, Tagle returned home and began his ministry as a priest. He quickly gained a reputation for his humility, warmth, and deep care for the marginalized. Manila, a city of contrasts, where towering skyscrapers stand alongside slums, became the backdrop for some of his most impactful work. He didn't just preach about helping the less fortunate. He walked among them, listened to their struggles, and fought for their rights. This earned him the title of the Cardinal of the Poor. In 2012, Pope Benedict XVI elevated Tagle to the College of Cardinals. This was no small recognition. It was a sign that Tagle's influence was expanding beyond the Philippines and reaching the global church. When Pope Francis took office in 2013, he saw something special in Tagle. The two shared a vision of a more compassionate, inclusive church, one that focused on mercy rather than judgment. Under Pope Francis, Tagle was entrusted with major roles in Vatican leadership, including heading the Congregation for the Evangelization of Peoples. Then came the turning point, the 2025 papal conclave. The Catholic Church was facing one of the most challenging periods in its history. Scandals, both financial and sexual, had rocked its foundations. Trust in the institution was at an all-time low, especially in the West, where secularism was rising and churches were becoming emptier by the day. As the cardinals entered the Sistine Chapel for the conclave, speculation ran wild. Tagle was a strong contender, but he was up against powerful figures who represented both extremes of the ideological spectrum. Each round of voting brought new suspense. The world was watching. Then, after intense deliberation, the moment came. The votes were counted, the name was announced, Luis Antonio Tagle. White smoke rose, the crowd erupted, history had been made. As Pope, Tagle faced a monumental task. He stepped into a role burdened with expectation, hope, and immense responsibility. But if anyone could navigate these turbulent waters, it was him. His first message as Pope echoed his lifelong mission. He called for unity, compassion, and a renewed commitment to the marginalized. The moment Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle was declared Pope, the world erupted in mixed emotions. In the Philippines, the news sent the nation into a frenzy of celebration. Church bells rang across cities and villages, streets were flooded with people waving the Vatican and Philippine flags, and social media was overwhelmed with messages of pride and joy. It was a moment of national triumph. A deeply Catholic country had just given the world its first Filipino Pope. Filipino overseas workers, who make up a significant portion of Catholic communities worldwide, felt an immense sense of connection and hope. In Italy, the Filipino diaspora gathered in St. Peter's Square, many in tears, overwhelmed that one of their own now sat on the throne of St. Peter. He understands us, he knows our struggles, he is our Pope, many said. Beyond the Philippines, reactions were equally powerful. In Latin America and Africa, two regions where Catholicism remained strong, Tagle's election was seen as a sign of the Church shifting its focus away from its European roots toward the global South, where faith remains vibrant. From the moment he donned the papal white, Pope Tagle faced a mountain of challenges. The world was watching, and expectations were high. The ideological divide within Catholicism had never been wider. Traditionalists feared a church that was losing its identity, while progressives demanded urgent reforms. Would Tagle be able to navigate this delicate balance? His ability to bring both sides to the table and encourage dialogue would be tested immediately. The Catholic Church had been plagued by financial and sexual abuse scandals for decades. While Pope Francis made strides in tackling these issues, many believed deeper reforms were needed. Tagle's reputation for humility and honesty gave hope that he could push for greater accountability. In Western nations, churches were emptying, and young people were turning away from religion. Could Tagle's compassionate and engaging approach reignite faith in these regions? His background in youth ministry suggested he was the right man for the from poverty to climate change, war to economic instability. Tagle believed the Church had a role to play in addressing global issues. But how far could he push social justice initiatives without alienating more conservative factions? Financial mismanagement had long plagued the Vatican. Pope Tagle inherited efforts from Pope Francis to reform Vatican finances, but corruption and resistance within the Church's administration remained significant hurdles. With young people becoming increasingly secular, Pope Tagle had to find ways to make faith relevant in the digital age. Could he use social media, modern communication strategies, and youth-focused outreach to bring the next generation back to the Church, particularly those affecting Christian minorities? From religious persecution in the Middle East to conflicts in Asia and Africa, his diplomatic skills were constantly put to the test. One thing is certain: his election was a turning point in Church history, a moment that signified change, hope, and the limitless possibilities of faith in action. And now we turn to you. What do you think? Is Pope Tagle the leader the Church needs in these times of crisis and change? Will his legacy be one that inspires generations to come? Despite these challenges, Pope Tagle's first few months in office showed his determination. He continued Pope Francis's emphasis on mercy and outreach, visited refugee camps, and made it clear that his papacy would be one of action, not just words. Pope Luis Antonio Tagle's election was more than just a historic milestone for the Philippines. It was a turning point for the Catholic Church as a whole. His journey from a humble boy in Manila to the leader of over 1 billion Catholics serves as proof that faith, humility, and a heart for service can change the world. What do you think? Is Pope Tagle the leader the Church needs in these times of crisis and change? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this story fascinating, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into history, faith, and the moments that shape our world. See you in the next video.